Well, hello everyone. My name is Sylvain Rochon. I'm an author, a speaker, a serial entrepreneur, an engineer, a scientist. I've done a lot of things, and I've been doing this channel for a while, almost 150 videos so far. And this year, 2018, I've taken some decisions. I've started a couple of new series. One series has been released or launched last week, which is the People with Purpose series. And this series, which is a new one, is about engineering paradise. And effectively, what it is, it's actually the start of a new book. This is going to be my second book. The first one is going to be in market by the end of this month, January 2018. And after I finished the first one, which is essentially about engineering paradise, it's designed to be a guidebook for professionals, entrepreneurs, and people that want to a little bit know more what the current technology state is at and where those technologies lead and how they can innovate and take on opportunities in between to develop this research and this R&D into applicable product and services that would eventually make the world a paradise, a really great place to live where no one works for a living anymore, where everybody has an opportunity to achieve success, whatever that means for them. And there's a chance for equality. Everybody has equal opportunities for well-being, happiness, to feel safe, and so on and so forth, which is a very big, a very tall order. But I'm not afraid of tall orders and dreams. I think they can be achieved. And so I wrote the book to trigger innovation among entrepreneurs and professionals to move towards that potential paradisiac future that we would build for ourselves. What I figured out, at least afterwards, is that, wait, I didn't really describe what an ideal world would look like. If you break down all these structures and you kind of ignore all the squabbles and the systems that are not working quite right, the obsolete ones, the new ones, the power struggles, if you ignore all this stuff and you just set them aside for a minute and decide to just, okay, let's start over and let's build something new. Let's just engineering something using what we know and the technologies that are available. What would that look like? So I decided to write a book about that, just to kind of give a picture of what that world would look like. And because that's way easier to visualize. You don't really need to figure out, well, how are we translated from what the systems we currently have now to something different. That is extremely difficult. There's a lot of power struggles at play. There's a lot of resistance from the people for change because they'll be concerned about how they make a living, how things will work out for them and their children. It's extremely complex. But starting from a blank slate, at least for the purpose of the experiment, of a goal, if you will, that's way easier. That we can actually draft a plan or an objective. So this book, this second book, which will be called Engineering Paradise Something, so it's a sequel of the first one, is going to be about, well, let's build this, and see what it looks like. So I'm going to be doing that. And, even though it's a fantastic dream, which could be reached or not, there's always three things that you need if you want to achieve something that's really, really difficult. And that's me, as a serial entrepreneur. It's just my personal experience, but you can also ask just about any professional that has achieved great things. There's really three things you need. One, you need a well-defined plan. So you need to kind of know where you're heading. You need to visualize the finished project. So you need to know specifically what this will look like exactly. Okay, so that's number one. Second, you need to have drive. You need to have motivation. You need to have something in your gut that drives you toward, like a reason to do that. And the third part is that you can't do it on your own. You have to have a dedicated team to get all this achieved. And so what I'll be doing with this book is I'll be developing a plan, an objective, something to shoot for. So that's going to be the first thing. I have strong motivation to make this happen, and I figure there's a whole bunch of people around the world that are also fundamentally motivated to do this, and using technology like the internet, communication technologies, YouTube videos, and other tools, we can work together as a team, organizations, individuals, to make this work. Now, I don't anticipate to being the first one. I'm just my idea is to write down a plan so that at least it's out there. There's probably different variations of it that are possible. But I'm motivated to actually do this so that we get something started and we can get things moving in the right direction. And ultimately, eventually, with motivation and people engaged, we can get close to it or some kind of variation of it without necessarily knowing how the details will work out. Because again, it's a very complicated process. It's not something you do in a day. Okay, it'll take years. But I'm confident together with individuals we can make it happen. Now, what we have to kind of think about is wrap our heads around is we have to get what some friends of mine in the World Future Society called futurist mindset. I just like to call it what it is: exponential thinking. We need to think not only like the futurist mindset is about building a future in such a way, that it creates good. Definitely, we want that. But it's simply about how things are exponential. When we build hardware, for example, computer hardware, there's a person that designs it. And we're making microchips and hardware and things like that. And then the hardware allows for better software that's faster, that uses more memory to be used, which is also built by people, right? But it's built on the hardware, the new hardware. Then using that software, we can design better robotics that are more efficient, more miniaturized, and so on. With the better robotics, we can actually build the next set of hardware and smaller, more, perform better, that releases heat better and things like that, better microchips, better hardware, and so on in a cycle. And there's people involved in here. So that this creates an exponential, the exponential way of things, that things progress, that technology advances. It advances at an exponential rate, but we as biological beings are not designed for exponential thinking and exponential progress. Our biology can change to any form and we can adapt to any kind of circumstance. That's true. But because of homeostasis, our biology, it always needs to keep balance, which cannot be accelerated. It has to take its time, and it's because of the way we're built. So we are designed to be linear, like as far as our physiology and our brain. So it's hard for us to actually have exponential thinking since we are built for linear change and linear processes. So basically what we need to do, we need to have trust. We have to trust the technology that's developing at an exponential rate, including AI, which is not bound by the rules of our biology, that can exponentiate itself. And we have to kind of trust the technology will advance properly with our guidance. And we have to think that if it's something, and this is the difficult part because we're not designed for it. We have to think exponentially. If something takes, let's say, a generation to happen, like from cell phones to smartphones, as an example, which is a tiny computer in our pocket that can do like huge amounts of stuff that used to be done by mainframes 20 years ago, or at least extremely well-performing computers. That same kind of level of advancement in the next generation, like to the next step, not like next generation, but to the next step, it won't take another generation. It's going to take less than a half or maybe half of it. So in 10 years, we're going to have as much advancement as we had in the past 20, for example. And we just have to keep that in mind and trust in the AI, and whatever we're building will develop into technology that will progress faster, that can potentially allow us to be way ahead of ourselves and more able to engage with each other and create interesting futures for ourselves. So, bottom line, if we think this paradise future is out of reach, impossible, because of exponential thinking, it becomes possible because the steps from here to then we can't anticipate, but we know things are going to be exponential. And with AI, with automation, self-driving cars, miniaturization, nanotechnology, and gene editing, all these fantastic technologies that are at our fingertips that exponentiate each other in advancements, we will be able to reap something we can't imagine right now in very few years, 5, 10 years. So the goal of engineering a paradise for ourselves is possible, even though we can't imagine how we're going to get there. That's the point. So that's the trust. We have to trust that we'll reach it. Therefore, it's worth it to start. And we have means to collaborate and communicate with each other really quickly in organized ways. So let's get started, which is why I wrote the book. So I'm hoping people that are watching this, that are connected to organizations, that are connected to me, will communicate with me, will communicate with the organization that have similar mindset, like the World Future Society, that's a great example, and put themselves into gear, into action. And hopefully my book and the blog articles, because I'm writing using my blog, so you can follow the blog. This is in the description below. We'll be able to coordinate. Maybe this is going to serve as a template. At least it could serve as a motivator for others to follow and start their own projects. Why not? And we can, in fact, build and engineer and design, whatever word you prefer, a paradise for ourselves and for everybody in the world. Don't think it's impossible just because you can't see it. We can achieve it together with a plan, motivation, and a community of individuals that want to make it happen. So let's make it happen. I'm going to be publishing a video like this and a blog that is basically building blocks for this plan approximately every couple of weeks. So this is going to be a series. This is episode 1. Episode 2 is going to be, and this is basically an introduction. So the introduction of the book, right? And episode 2, well, I'll be talking about the first official post-introduction chapter, I guess, which I won't reveal right now, but I'll tell you all about it in a couple of weeks. Ciao for now, and we'll see each other in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye.